Hello and welcome. We'll be getting started in just 1 minute at the top of the hour. Thanks so much for joining us today. Welcome, welcome. We'll be getting started shortly here. Just going to give everyone a moment to filter in. All right, and we are at time, so I am going to get us started here. Hello and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us this week for our Learning Libby with the Experts webinar series. Today, I will be taking you through some of our favorite Libby tips and tricks. If you were with us on Monday, you met my teammate Marissa as she took you through the basics to get started. Today, I am going to take you through some of the things to really enhance your experience while you're using Libby. Before we get started, just wanted to take a second to introduce myself. My name is Joe. I'm here from Overdrive. If you were already here, you might have heard this already, but of course, Overdrive is the makers of the Libby app. We took years of feedback from our original Overdrive app and built Libby with the ground up to kind of create the best experience based off of feedback from readers like you. At Overdrive, I'm a part of the digital bookmobile team, so I help plan the tour route that takes our truck across the US and Canada, visiting different libraries and schools, helping people just like yourselves get started. Marissa always teases me and says, I have the boring part of our job. I get to do all of the planning, the bookkeeping, the things like that. So while it's been a while since I've been out on the road, in my 5 years here at Overdrive, I have helped thousands of people get started, so I'm so excited to take you through some of my favorite features today. Before we dive in, just a few housekeeping items. Just want to remind everyone that closed captions are enabled for this webinar. You should be seeing them automatically already on your screen. If you're not, or if you need to adjust those at all, just look for the button that says CC in your Zoom meeting controls. Tap or click on the arrow next to it, and you can adjust. The closed captions are automatically generated by Zoom, so they're not always accurate, but they do a really nice job of capturing what we say. Sometimes words get swapped, so just keep that in mind if you're viewing them. You can ask me questions throughout the entire webinar. I do have time set aside at the end for Q&A, so you can send questions through as they come to mind, but I will take the time to answer those after we wrap up the main demo here and then our mini quiz. Then we'll move into answering those questions. I am recording today, so you'll get an email tomorrow morning from Zoom that includes a link to the recording of today's session. If you have to step away for any reason, distractions pop up, or if you need to hop off early, you'll be able to access that full recording as early as tomorrow. That email will also include links to yesterday's recording and our helpful Getting Started and Tips and Tricks PDF, which include short video clips of everything we cover in our sessions so far. We do have another session tomorrow where we will talk about magazines in Libby. Marissa and I will be back together for that one. So not only is it a great opportunity to ask any final Libby questions you might have, you can also learn more about magazines. I'll send the link to register for that if you're not already out at the end of the session. When the webinar ends, a survey will pop up on your screen. Fill that out for me. Let me know what you thought of today. We really appreciate it. And then last, when I get my iPad connected here in just a moment, Zoom can be a little tricky sometimes when we connect in devices. It doesn't happen to everyone, but it might cut off part of your display. I need you to be able to see all of Libby. So when I get connected, I will go over the steps to adjust that in the chat if you need to do so. All right, so I am going to start off with showing you how to filter and refine your library's catalog so you're only seeing the content you're interested in. Then we'll go over creating lists with tags, probably my favorite feature in Libby. Then we'll look at how to define words in ebooks, and we'll wrap up with making notes and highlights. So with that, let me take a second here and get my iPad connected. There we go. All right. And I just have to readjust my screen a little bit. And this is where I am going to send out those steps. So we'll take a moment. If you cannot see the icons at the bottom of my screen, you should be seeing magnifying glass, library, menu, stack of books, and clock. If you cannot see those, that means Zoom is cutting off your display. So just follow those instructions in the chat to make any needed adjustments. All right. So the first thing we are going to dive into is we are going to look at how we can really customize our browsing experience. So in Libby, we have this amazing ability to only see the titles we're interested in, regardless of the page we're in, the curated list we're in, or in our search results. And we can do this app-wide setting by setting a preference. So I'm going to go into our available now tag here. So this is going to show me all the ebooks, audiobooks, and magazines I can check out right away, no wait list. And when I hop in here, I can see all of this great info up at the top, what's available, and it's listing books, audiobooks, magazines. And then we've got this slightly darker green bar right here that says preferences and refine. So we'll look at both of these today, but we'll start off with preferences. So these are those settings that will stick and stay and be applied across the entire app. So on the bookmobile, some of the preferences we see people set very often, we'll talk through now. So the first option here, we've got format. This is if you are someone who never wants to see a magazine, never wants to see an audiobook, you only want those ebooks, you could come in here and set a preference. Now, with preferences in most of these settings, you can really only choose one option because you're narrowing down everything that pops up. So if you like two of the options, like you want to see audiobooks and magazines, I wouldn't set a format preference. But if you know you never want anything other than magazines, you could set a preference for that. But I will leave that as any. The one I see most common and the one we're going to set right now is under language. So if you remember from our getting started session, we mentioned libraries offer titles in a variety of different languages, different based on your library. But that also can mean that while you are looking for your next great read, maybe you've got a title a friend recommended, your library might have that in English and German, and you go to borrow the book and you've accidentally borrowed it in German because you couldn't tell from the title that it was different because sometimes the titles aren't translated. Publishers can be weird with different language options. But so we'll come in here and I am going to set an English preference because I do all of my reading and listening in the English language. So I have English set, and then we'll continue through here. We'll look at some of the other options. The other option we see set a lot is audience. So if you are a parent, you're setting your device. Oh, I hit the wrong one. And you're setting a device up for a kiddo. You've got a child, a grandchild who has a tablet, and you're getting Libby configured for them. This is a way that you can filter out adult or mature content. So if they are a younger reader, you could set just a juvenile preference. Or if they are kind of in that middle grade, you could set it for juvenile and young adult. And then they are only going to see those kind of age appropriate titles. Now, for those of us who kind of read everything, I'm not going to set an audience preference because I do want to see all of it, but that's something you could keep in mind. Now, when we're done here, I'm just going to tap on apply. And now we'll see here we've got a 1 next to preferences, meaning we've got one preference set. And up top, it no longer says all available titles. It now says available titles in English and what's available. So we're seeing this preference being applied. Now, if we leave this search, if we go into a different part of the app, it will stick, it will stay, it will still be there and applied for us. We don't have to go through and worry about accidentally borrowing something in Mandarin. We don't have to worry about borrowing something else. We can just kind of know that our English preference is set and we're good to go. The next thing we can look at is refine. So the great thing about refine is that these are temporary filters for the different sections we're in. So let's say we are looking for a book for a road trip. So we're already in our available now filter. That's a great place to start. We'll back up for anyone who might just be joining us. From the library, we'll go into available now. And let's say we want to refine down to find something super specific. We're in a specific mood. We know what we want to listen to, but we don't necessarily have the exact title we want. In our available now, let's get ready for a road trip. So since we're driving, I need an audiobook. I can't read and drive. And then we need it to be available now. We're already in that. And then let's see, we'll pick some subjects to choose from. Let's go for mystery and historical fiction. We'll see how specific we can get. So the first thing I'm going to do to start refining is actually right up in this top section. Under where we see listing, books, audiobooks, and magazines, since I just want to look at those audiobooks, I'm simply going to tap on that, and that is going to remove all magazines and ebooks from my display. Now remember, these are refining things. These do not stick and stay. If I leave this page, it will all come back the moment I click back into available now. This is all temporary. But now let's go into this refine menu and start adding some things to really narrow down what we're looking for. The first thing I want to do, I want to add that mystery subject, and I also want to narrow it down into historical fiction. So I'll start by tapping on mystery under subject. And just like that, we've gone from 22,000 audiobooks to just under 3,000. But the great thing about refining in Libby is that using multiple subject filters allows us to filter down into really niche results. So instead of looking at all mystery or all historical fiction, when I add in historical fiction, we will now only be looking at books that are both mystery and historical fiction. So it's a really cool way to kind of get your niche interests found nice and easy while you're scrolling. It doesn't have to be a curated collection. You can just dive right in and kind of find what you enjoy most. So we've gone from almost 3,000 books to just over 200 audiobooks, which is really nice if we're trying to find a book that we need to borrow for tomorrow. And the last thing I want to do is I want to find the books that have been added or that have been released most recently. So those hot releases, they've come out, in the last couple months. I don't want to have to scroll through everything to find them. I'm going to go back into that refine menu, and then I am going to come down to sort by. And right now we're seeing sort by popularity. These are some of the most popular checked out titles. We're instead going to choose release date. And when we choose release date, we're going to now see some of the newest titles up at the top. So a really cool way to be able to refine your searches to find what you're looking for as quickly as possible. Now, I wanted to add a note. If you are adding multiple subjects like we did here, we're seeing historical fiction and mystery, you can add, I'd say the sweet spot is between 2 and 4 subjects before you're really going to have no options pop up because there's so few titles that hit the mark of this is mystery, historical fiction, humor, thriller. Like at some point you're gonna limit yourself a little too far and run out of options available. And just like that, we are wrapping up our first tip how to set preferences, and refine our search results. We're now going to go into our next tip, which is all about tags. I know we might have mentioned it a little bit on Monday when we were talking about wish lists from the Overdrive app and kind of the ways that you can customize overall. But what tags are is they are a really cool way that you can keep yourself organized. So if you are familiar with the existing Overdrive app, you had one wish list and your history, and that was really it. But with Libby, you can make as many tags as you like. The only limit is your imagination. So personally, I make a list for my niece. So my sister is always trying to find great books to read at bedtime. So when I scroll through and I find something that I think will really match for her on my personal device, I have a Reagan tag. I throw them in there, and every so often I will send that list off to my sister and say, here are some great books we can read in the next couple months to my niece. But let's see a tag in action. So as we're scrolling through, we'll even stay on the same page, our search results here. We'll see all of these different audiobooks popping up, and we can see things like borrow, play sample, or tag. So when we tap on this button right here that says tag, this will pop up the list of all of our available tags. So the first thing we'll break down, let's look at some smart tags. They're down at the bottom here. Smart tags are tags with special abilities, and some of these are built into Libby right away. The first one is this little receipt emoji. It's the borrowed smart tag. So this is something that's applied automatically to all books that you borrow. So anytime you check out a book, Libby puts this tag on. So that way, when you're scrolling through different lists like this, you'll see that receipt pop up here and there so you don't accidentally borrow something again that you've already read. Gone are the days where you have to, get 50 pages in or, 30 minutes into the audiobook and realize, oh, I've already read this. So this will be automatically tagged on your books when you borrow them. This is a really cool feature. The other smart tag that already exists and is built in Libby is this little piece of cake emoji. Now, this will be added to a book whenever you play a sample. So if you hit read sample or play sample, I'll scroll this menu down a little bit so we can see right here if I hit play sample on Clark and Division, it will open up the book for me and I can start listening to that. You can do this every once in a while. You're trying to decide if you want to borrow the book or not. Then when I tap back, we will see now this piece of cake emoji next to it. So that's really just another helpful way to keep you organized. But now we'll come over to In the Garden of Spite and we'll tap on tag, bring our list back up. The other kind of tags that are available are these regular tags. So these are different lists that I've created. There are no kind of pre-made regular tags for you. They are just different ways that you can keep yourself organized. So if you are like me and you love to keep recipes handy, you can have a cooking tag. You can make a to be read tag with all of your, favorite books that you are ready to read. It's kind of like my wish list. And you can just kind of keep yourself organized in those different ways. If you want to create a new tag, down at the bottom, we've got this new tag button. If you tap on that, you can type out, let's say, I want to read this book, but I don't think it's what I'm looking for my road trip. I will just come up with a new tag and I can name it. You can use emojis, you can use words. You can also add a description if you'd like, but since I tend to tag things based on the subject I'm in, I don't really need to add a description. So I'll tap on create, and just like that, we can see my mystery tag has been added. Now, I will say, because I just saw someone said they didn't have a new tag button. If you are in that tag menu, based on the size of your device, you might have to scroll down a little bit. So if when this shade pops up with all of your different options, just try to scroll down a little bit and see if that button was just hiding from you. So, as I mentioned, we can see different tags right here on our screen. So we've got that piece of cake. Um, you can see anything you borrowed, that receipt is going to pop up. And it's a great way to not only keep yourself organized in what you want to read next, but also with anything that you are, like keeping yourself organized while you're browsing. You don't have to worry about missing out on a book that you haven't read yet because you forgot that you sampled it and you meant to read it. You don't have to worry about reading a book over and over again accidentally because you can see that borrowed tag. So you can place tags while you're browsing around, or you can go into your shelf and then all of your tags are going to live. So we've got our loans, our holds, and then if we hop into tags, they are going to live right here. You can sort them by regular tags. Those are those ones that don't have any special abilities. They are just your typical, any kind of different list you've made, or you could go into just your smart tags. This is where I'll also take a moment to just look at our last smart tag we can expect. So we've talked about our borrowed smart tag, that receipt. We've talked about the sampled smart tag, the piece of cake. Now we can look at this one. This is the notify me smart tag. And we'll cover this one more tomorrow when we talk magazines, because this is all about letting you know when a new issue of a magazine has become available. So that's why you're seeing it now, but I kind of skipped over it. We'll talk more about this tomorrow. Basically, when you borrow a magazine, it will prompt you to create this tag, and then you can add magazines to it if you want to be notified when a new issue is available. So we'll just go back into our tags here and we can scroll through. We've got all of these available. You can also, if you don't want to make a tag while you're in a search, you just want to start off and figure out what kind of books you want to add from the beginning. If you go to, and we'll take a step back, if we go to our shelf and then we go to tags, if you come up to this actions button at the top, and there was an update recently to Libby. So if you're not seeing any of these buttons like this teal actions button in the tags menu, you just might need to update Libby. So keep that in mind. Underneath actions, you can create a new tag. So just like we did in our search result, we can also do that here. So you can type in the name of the tag and you can give it a description. Now I want to hop into, if I can find it, there's my to be read list. Because the really cool thing about tags is that you can share these. So you can export all of the books on your to be read list and you could share them with a friend if you're making like a book club list. If you want to print them out, you want to keep a record of the books you've read or the books you're planning to read, you can do that as well. All you need to do is go up into actions. And then this is where we've got a couple different options. You wanted to, I do this a lot when I'm walking my dog. I tend to start a new tag, but I'll make a typo because I was walking and typing at the same time. You can always rename a tag or you can delete a tag. But the most important button, in my opinion, is that export tag. So you've got several different options here. Spreadsheet is if you want to make an Excel doc of it. I usually use this table option. This will open up a web version of my to be read tag list. And you can scroll through, see all of the different books you have on the list. It will include a link to it in Libby, and then all of the different info like the ISBN, and when you added the book to your tag list and what library it's from. So if you have multiple library cards, it will even help you get organized. When you're ready to share this list with someone, you just need to find this little share button. It's a universal symbol. This is not a Libby symbol. So you'll see this in a lot of different apps. It's a square with an up arrow. When you tap on that, that will give you the option. You can send it out as a text message. You could email it. Or if you have the option to print from your device, you can print as well. So, a really cool way to utilize tags, whether you're making lists for family and friends, trying to keep yourself organized, or just want to, you know, share with friends. All right, the next thing I would like to see us go through, let's see, that wraps up our tag tip. So let's go into a book. I am going to open up Pride and Prejudice, and we are going to look at how we can define words, and then we will even pivot into making notes and highlights. So there's a couple of really cool reasons you would want to learn how to define words in a book. It's so much more than just wanting the definition of the word. The dictionary, when you go and hit define, does not just do your basic definitions, it also works for your proper nouns. So if you are reading a nonfiction piece and it references a specific location that you want more info about, you can get a definition that will pull up not only like the basic dictionary definition, but also some Wikipedia topics. So you can quickly skim through what is this place? What does it mean? I do that a lot when fiction books references specific pieces of art or TV shows I'm not familiar with. It's a really cool way to get a quick reference right within the book. So I am just going to look for a word here. I'm just going to grab a random word. We'll go with apothecary here. So I am going to place my finger on the word apothecary. And once it turns blue, I'll lift my finger off the screen. And then I'm just going to tap on define. So we've got right up top our English dictionary definition of the word apothecary. And then below where we see topics, this is what I was talking about with those kind of Wikipedia suggestions. So it's going to give us a full overview of the word apothecary. So now imagine if this was a military general, a piece of art, a location in France, you're going to get a really cool overview of that item. For these different Wikipedia definitions, you do need to be connected to the internet. So if you're reading offline, the specific topics section isn't going to work, but your device has a built-in dictionary, so the defining kind of capability will still work as far as defining basic words and some proper nouns. So a really cool option there. To exit this definition, we're just going to tap above it. And now we're back into our reading section. So now we are going to pivot into making notes and highlights. So this is great if you are in book club and you want to, kind of come up with your notes, what you want to bring up in your next book club meeting. It's great if you're a student in school, but I personally also just like to make notes when I'm reading, especially when I'm reading a good thriller and I'm trying to figure out what's going to happen next as I go. So when you're ready to highlight a certain section of text, all you need to do is, just like we did with define, I am going to take my finger and place it on the word had. And then as I start to drag my finger along, you can see that blue highlight on the screen. I can select as much text or as little as I'd like. So I'll just do a little bit here. And when I lift my finger off the screen, we've got this same menu popping up. Now we can see here we've got this highlight option. If I just tap highlight, it will default to yellow, but you can choose different colors, especially if you're a student keeping yourself organized with this is something about the theme. Now we've got our highlight made. If I tap on this green highlight here, it's going to bring our note menu down from the top. So I can come in here and type out a note. And I am just going to put in a little demo note here. This is an example of a note. You can write as much as you'd like in the notes section. I don't think I've ever been cut off, and I'll write paragraphs in here, but just for our purposes, we'll just do a short example. Just like we did to exit the definition when we're done, we'll tap outside of that shade and we're back in our book. If you want to pull it back up again, tap on the highlighted portion and we'll see our partial highlight and our full note. Now, if you are flipping through your reading, you make some more notes and you decide you're still reading the book, you want to reference something you had made a note of before, they'll tap in the center of the screen. You should all be familiar with the appearance icon from Monday, but if we go past the magnifying glass and into these multiple bookmarks here, this is going to pull up our full list of, and I apparently only have made one highlight so far in this book. This will pull up all of our highlights, and we can see right here, chapter 9. If I tap on that, it's going to take me back to the page that I made that highlight on so I can reference back to it. So really convenient. So once again, center of the screen, multiple bookmark icon. It's the last one in the row. And you'll have your full list of notes and highlights. That way you can jump back around through the book. I will also mention, of course, you can use this little bookmark. Underneath that icon is just to drop a bookmark on the page. It's another great way. Like I do this one a lot when I am specifically looking at cookbook recipes. I know which one I want to jump back into because these will also be included in that menu of bookmarks, notes, and highlights. So I can always hop back in by using that, and it will take me back to the page I bookmarked. So some great options there. You do not have to use bookmarks in Libby. She will remember your place and take you right back to where you left off on the page, even if the book has been returned to the library. But the bookmarks are great if you're just trying to, I think of it a little more of like dog-earing the page to go back to something later. Now, as many of you in book club know, a lot of times you're reading popular books, and my luck has always been book club is on the 23rd, but that book has to go back to the library on the 21st. It's got a hold limit on it. It's got people with a wait list on it, so you can't renew it. Usually you would think, well, great, all those notes I made, I now can't access. But the really cool thing in Libby is we can always see the notes and highlights we have made in our ebooks and audiobooks. All you need to do is get to the title details page. Now, I know this was covered on our getting started session, but the title details page, that's where you see the back jacket cover of the book and different series information, things like that. There's a lot of ways you can get to that page, but I am just going to search for, I know exactly the book I want, so I'll go to the magnifying glass and I'm just going to type it in. I'm looking for the guest list. And I'll tap on search. And there we go. And we even have our great example here. I've borrowed this book in the past. My borrowed smart tag is here. So I will tap on that jacket cover. And this is going to take us to that title details page. So this is the page we're looking for. If we scroll down, we'll see the full description. We'll see reviews of the book and then some other book publishing info. But what we're looking for on this page is this box right up top, the reading journey. So I'll tap on reading journey to enter into it. Now there's a lot of great things in here. So similar to when we were exporting tags, we've got that actions button up at the top. If we tap into it, we've got some similar options. We can choose export reading data. This is going to, export, like we saw with that tag, all of the different actions we've taken on this book. But if you're just needing to quick reference a note and highlight you made, we can scroll down to the timeline for this title. And anywhere that there is a highlight, you can tap into it. And it's going to show you the full highlight you made and the full note you made. So this is a great way to reference back any notes and highlights you made within an ebook or an audiobook. If you export it, I will say, so this looks a little different. It doesn't show me what color I highlighted in. If you are using colors to keep yourself organized, it's not going to show you in this quick timeline view, but if you export, it will show you the highlight color, full note, full highlighted passage. So just depends on what your needs are. And that is how you can reference your notes and highlights after the book has gone back to the library. All right, and let me just pause for a second here to quick look over at our Q&A that's coming through. Will this video be able to watch again? Yes. Mentioned up at the top, you'll get an email tomorrow morning from Zoom that includes a link to the full recording of this presentation to be able to review. And then my drop down for export tag is different. There was an update to Libby recently, so just make sure you go into your app store and make sure that the Libby app is up to date. I would suggest closing the app completely and then reopening it. That should update everything so that way our drop downs look the same. But we'll quick go through that one. We'll go back to the shelf and then into tags. If you open up, we'll just go into our, let's see, Beach Reads tag here. So actions, when you're exporting a tag, you've got 3 different format options. I almost always choose this HTML table option. This is going to make like a web version of it. But if you choose the spreadsheet option, that's going to make your CSV file. So that's an Excel document. It's going to look like a spreadsheet. And then the data option, I don't typically use that one. My recommendations are these top 2, but you'll find what works best for you. If you're using table, this export should look pretty similar. The only difference just might be I'm using an iPad mini. It depends on the size of the device, like what you're actually seeing on the screen. But as far as export tag, it should look the same. So just make sure your Libby app is up to date. All right, so I have taken us through our 4 tips and tricks here. I am going to switch back over to our mini quiz. Let's test what we covered, and then I will switch back over. We'll get to all of your questions at the end. We'll cover anything you'd like to see again. So we're just going to pivot for a moment. We'll kind of take a moment to absorb everything through the quiz and then open the floor for questions. I'll get Libby reconnected on the screen and we'll get all of those answered for you. And once again, if there's something you'd like to see again, more than happy to do that with the time we have remaining. All right, so these questions are completely anonymous, or the answers to them are. So just give me your best answer. If you're unsure, you can either choose unsure or guess. For question number 1, if you only want to temporarily filter a list or your search results, which type of filter would you use? Refine or preference? And it looks like all the answers are in, so I'll close that poll. Wow, hey, y'all are amazing. Everyone got that one correct. So just the quick recap here, refine is our temporary option. You'll see this in all of the different searches and curated lists. You can add multiple subjects to really help narrow down your search result. Probably my favorite part of it all, being able to find those niche subjects I enjoy. Preferences are going to be sticky and they apply across the entire app. I always like to recommend setting a preference if you really only read or listen in one language. Set that language preference, and that way only the books that you can read will show up for you. Great work, everyone. For question number 2, this one's a true or false. You can add multiple subject filters to find niche subjects in Libby. I gave that one away. I gave that one away in my answer to the last question. And I'll close this in 3, 2, 1. You're all correct. I know you would have gotten it anyway, but the correct answer is true. It's, like I just said, probably my favorite bit of being able to filter and refine is saying that I am looking for a fantasy romance. I am looking for a mystery historical fiction and being able to see those. Just the reminder, I really kind of recommend capping yourself at 3 or 4 of these subjects. You can play around with it as much as you want, especially since they're temporary, but you'll just find very few, if not zero titles available if you've got, 4, 5, 6, 7. But Libby will try her best. For question number 3, what are the 3 types of smart tags? Borrowed, sampled, notify me, to be read. So select all that apply. And I'll close this in 3, 2, 1. All right. So we've got 3 types of smart tags. Remember, you can find your full list of tags. It lives on your shelf under the tags button up at the top. Our smart tags are borrowed. That's are automatically added to anything you've borrowed in Libby. Notify me, which alerts you when a new issue of a magazine is available. And sampled, that is anything you might have read or listened to a sample of while you were browsing. The to be read tag is one of my favorite tags, but selfishly, it's one that I have created. It is a regular tag. Some people call it a to be read, they'll call it their wish list. That is just a regular tag, no special abilities. You can add anything you'd like into that tag or make as many regular tags as you want. Our last question here before we go back into Q&A. Where can you find your notes and highlights after a title is returned to the library? So they live in your tags on your shelf, in the reading journey on the book's title details page, or on the timeline. I know this is a tricky one. And I'll close this in 3, 2, 1. So one of my favorite updates to Libby in the last couple years was being able to access your notes and highlights even after a book has been returned to the library. And to get there, they live on the title details page of a book. So you can get to the title details page in a variety of ways. You could go into your tags if you already borrowed it, you could find it that way. You could go to your timeline and scroll through and, tap into it. But the notes and highlights themselves specifically live on that title details page in the reading journey. So you just need to tap on the cover of a book to get to the details page and then tap into that reading journey box. From there, if you want to quick view your highlight, just tap on timeline for this title and tap on the highlight you'd like to review. We'll show you the full highlight you made and the complete note you wrote out. And that wraps up our mini quiz. Thank you all so much for taking that break with me to kind of refresh and, look at everything we learned today. I am going to take 1 second here to get my iPad reconnected. And then we will dive into your questions. So if you've got any questions for me at anything we've covered today or about anything from our getting started session, please feel free to send those through the Q&A now. I'd be more than happy to answer any of the questions you've got for me. All right. So we've got quite a few questions popping up. Barb, thank you. Thank you for your thank you. I appreciate that. If you read or listened to a book in Overdrive, will it already show up as read in Libby? So unfortunately, your history, so if you've been using Overdrive for a long time and you've got a history, you can export your history out of Overdrive and kind of keep it for your records, but there's no way to bring that into Libby. So that borrowed smart tag only exists in Libby, and you won't be able to um, kind of see the books that you've already borrowed. Now, if you're only using Overdrive recently, your books are going to show up on your shelf. So if you borrow something in Overdrive, it will also start to download and show up in Libby for you. But it won't, Libby and Overdrive, they are from the same family, but they speak a different language. So um, you won't have your progress. If you're halfway through the book in Overdrive, it's still going to be at page 1 in Libby, and you'll have to kind of find where you left off. But if you're using Libby on multiple devices, Libby communicates with Libby. So just kind of keep that in mind. You can, of course, always add that borrowed smart tag to the books you've already read. I know it's a little frustrating to have to kind of backtrack a little bit, but just know that from the moment you start using Libby, everything is going to auto tag for you so you know what you've already read. There was a question on your library being titled Wisconsin Digital and not My Digital Library. Totally okay. Sorry for the confusion. I usually mention it. I forgot to at the top. At the top of my screen here, it says My Digital Library. I'm just using a demo library from Overdrive today. I'm from Overdrive, and I like to make sure that when I'm kind of showing off in this demonstration, if I need to borrow something, I don't want to borrow anything someone from your library might be waiting for. There are so many different libraries digitally around the world. So yours will say Wisconsin Digital. You might have multiple library cards, so you're switching between different digital libraries. No worries there. How is LinkCat connected to Libby? As far as I am aware, there is not a connection between LinkCat and Libby. I believe that's a specific service. I'm sorry, since I'm not from the library, I'm not familiar with everything that your library offers. But I believe that LinkCat is, there we go. It's a way that you can share physical materials between libraries. So Libby has nothing to do with the physical materials in your collection. So no print books or physical audiobooks are going to show up or be available in Libby. So there's no connection with LinkCat since that all has to do with those print or physical pieces. That said, your library is part of that large Wisconsin digital library. So it's similar, it's kind of like LinkCat in that everyone that has access to that library, regardless of what physical building they go to or where they live in the state, has access to everything. So it kind of takes that secondary service out of the equation when it comes to digital. When does Libby go live or when does Overdrive go away? The Libby app has actually been fully functional and available for about 4.5 years now. Um, so Libby is ready whenever you are. We have only recently decided to go in the direction of sunsetting the Overdrive app because it's confusing for people getting started for us to have two different apps for the same collection of materials. So the Overdrive app will no longer be available in the beginning of 2023. In the meantime, if you are a longtime Overdrive app user, all of the different features that you're used to seeing in Overdrive are working their way into Libby as we work toward the Overdrive app going away. On my tags page, I only have the one tag that I made. I don't have a previously read tag or any pre-made tags. Hmm, interesting. So I will say, let's see. If we go into our tags, your smart tags are only going to start appearing when you've done something in those different sections. So the piece of cake tag won't exist until you play or read a sample of a book. So if you never use that play or read sample button, it's never going to add itself to Libby. It will just kind of automatically happen once you read a sample. So you may never see that one. If I know personally, I don't tend to read samples. I just kind of go off of that back of the book description and dive into it. So I think on my personal device, I don't have this one at all. Dora, if you are newer to using Libby, if you haven't borrowed any books yet, they should, you also won't have that borrowed smart tag until you check out your first ebook or audiobook. If you have, that sounds like there might be a bug going on, and we'll go through the steps in just 1 second on how you could send that off to our tech support team, and they'll be able to troubleshoot and help you with anything that might be going wrong. So that is a great example for everyone. And then the notify me tag. So the thing with smart tags is they're all just kind of like waiting to exist. They're ready for you, but they're not sitting there waiting around. So that borrowed smart tag won't exist until you borrow a book, play a sample, or check out a magazine and create the notify me smart tag. So if you are not seeing these smart tags, it's probably just because you haven't done one of those actions yet. Now, if you have done all of those things, or if you've done one of those, and for some reason it's not showing up on your tags page, this is where we can go into the menu and reach out to our tech support folks. So from menu, under help and support, we'll tap on get some help. From here, I'm just going to come up into the top, and let's say my borrowed smart tag didn't pop up. I'm just going to type in tags and hit search. And then we've got some help articles popping up here. So we could go into what are tags, but y'all already know what tags are now. So I'm just going to tap on Ask Our Support Team. This is going to allow me to send an email directly to our tech support team with a problem, a question, or an idea for the future. So in this case, you could pose it as a question. I only have the tags that I made. I don't see um, borrowed or anything like that. You could send in a question. Or if for some reason you tried to play a sample and that piece of cake didn't show up, you could tap on a problem, type out as much info as you have on the situation, and then that will go off to our tech support team. Now, our tech support team are real folks based out of here in Cleveland, Ohio. They are available 24/7, 365 days of the year, and they do all of their work via email. So they will get to you as quickly as they can. So just make sure before you send off that email, this is the thing that I learned the hard way that sometimes you got to double check, make sure you didn't have a typo when you typed in your email, because then we won't be able to get that answer to you. So always double check that email. You all have been so wonderful. Thank you for participating in the mini quiz and for asking all of these fantastic questions. We do still have a little bit of time left together today, so please feel free to send through any other questions you have. In the meantime, I am going to grab that registration link for y'all. If you want to join Marissa and I tomorrow to learn about magazines in Libby, and then, of course, to use that time to also ask us any other questions that you've had come up as you played around with Libby over the last few days, just feel free to join us. I'll send that through the chat now, so feel free if you'd like. It will be at the same time tomorrow morning. Will be at 10 a.m. your time. We'll talk about magazines. That one is a bit of a shorter presentation because we do also use, like I said, a lot of that time to just go over anything folks would like to see again or answer questions. I now search for mystery audiobooks newly added to Overdrive each Friday. Can I do this in Libby? Yeah, let's try that out. We're going to go to our library tab. I'm going to go into subjects. And I love this page. It shows me all of my different subjects. I will say, when you first pop in here, the default is to show everything in order by the number of titles that are available. So, like the highest amount will be up at the top. Just hit this sort button and switch to alphabetically. Makes it so much easier. And that is also sticky. It won't go back unless you change it. So I will scroll through. Let's see. Mystery, mystery, mystery. Where are you? I'm probably just missing. Oh, there we go. And we'll tap on mystery. And so now we are looking at all of our mystery titles. We'll tap on Audiobooks. Now we're only looking at mystery audiobooks. And then we'll tap on Refine, and we'll go to Sort By. And instead of popular, we are going to, so you have two options here. You can either choose release date. That's going to show you the newest titles up at the top like we did earlier. But based off of what you were asking, Barb, I am going to go with date added. So this is going to show you the mystery audiobooks that were most recently added to your library. So that does not mean that they are new releases, but it means that they are new to the collection. So we can see in my digital library here, these books have most recently been added. And so they are going to kind of appear in the list from most recently purchased and added by your library to oldest. So once again, subject, mystery, we tapped on audiobooks, and then under refine, we went into sort by. And like I said, you can choose either release date for, the book that just came out in 2022, or you can choose date added if you want to see it by the author, or I'm sorry, by what are words? By when it was added into your library. Can they then be sorted by author? Let's see. So we do need to just pick one option there. So no, you cannot then sort it by author. It's just going to pop up by your kind of sort by is going to show you first. But if you are looking for a specific author, you could then search within these results. So if you tap on that, it will give you the opportunity to say, oh, I'm looking for a new Robert, JD Robb book. I'm looking for a new Janet Ovanovich book. You could just type it right in there. Hopefully that helped. Oh, you're welcome. Happy to do it. Any other questions? I know we've only got a few minutes left. I will say, we've had a lot of great questions come up that I think I would also love to see available in Libby. Like being able to kind of do that double sort by, not only sort by date added, but then also sort by author. I would love to see that in Libby. I would love to see, now I'm blanking on it. I'm trying to think of it. Let's see, where'd you go? There's just a lot of different features that we'd love to see in Libby. And if you remember from the beginning, Libby was built based off of Overdrive user feedback. So there is a big spirit of wanting feedback about Libby. So if there is a feature that you would like to see added into the app, similar to when we were looking for help, we'll go into the menu and then get some help. And then right under this common solutions section, is this button right here that says suggestion box. So you can come in here, type out any suggestions you'd like one that just came through. Being able to see star reviews from other readers would be nice too. You could absolutely come in here, type out that feedback, and it will go through to our app developer teams directly. So they make a list and it's, kind of based off of how much someone requests something. So if it's, it moves up on the priority scale based on, are a bunch of people asking for this. So if you think it's important, you're probably not the only one. Send that through and let your opinion be heard. So to get to that again, we're using our navigation bar at the bottom. Tap on that menu in the center. We've got our 3 sections here under help and support. Tap on get some help. And then either you can go up into the top and type in if you've got questions, or under common solutions, we've got this suggestion box button right here. So let your voice be heard. I did want to call out, of course, you can't see star reviews just kind of in general from readers, but if we come into a title detail page like we've done for other options, if we scroll down, we can see reviews from, got it, ratings. Still work, ratings, reviews. I gotcha. Either way, you can see reviews from folks at Library Journal, Book List, Publishers Weekly. If there are, kind of published reviews about the book, they will be available on this details page. So let that suggest to you if it does. Yeah. Well, thank you all so much for joining me today. I greatly appreciate your time and taking the opportunity to learn with me and let me show off some of my favorite tips and tricks in Libby. We hope to see you tomorrow for our magazine session. Remember, you'll get an email tomorrow morning from Zoom that includes a link to this recording, as well as a link to Monday's Getting Started recording and links to our Getting Started PDF and our Tips and Tricks PDF. So it'll cover everything that you saw with me today, but in short video clips. So if there's only one little piece you wanted to see again, you could just quick use that PDF. With all of that said, we are at the end of our time. It looks like all of our questions have been answered. Thank you all so much for joining me today, and happy reading.